Hi, welcome to More Than Mortgage. I'm Chad Anderson. That guy is Zach Jones. And today we are here to help do some prevention for you. We want to make sure that you understand red flags for the good old bait and switch. That's right. The good old, hey, there's a car down here. It's a Mercedes for $9,000. Hurry and get down to the lot. And then you get there and they sold the only one that never existed. And they show you the other one that's $30,000. So, same kind of stuff can happen in the mortgage world.
Mhm.
And Zach and I, we were on the phone yesterday actually talking about this topic and how we would present it and whatnot. And with this topic, we said, same thing could happen if rates continue to trend in a positive direction, positive meaning lower. Uh, we could see some of this because your call centers and online lenders and people who, are just sitting by the phone trying to refinance you all day instead of having the realtor and purchase relationships. That's where a lot of it comes in is the online stuff, the behind the curtain on the phone. You can't see me. I can lie to you and never talk to you again. Those are the kinds of people we're trying to warn you of. So that's what we're going to break down. But first, help us out. This is episode number 26. If you can like, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, download, share, put it on another platform for us, tell your friends about it, comment, DM experiences as well. What have you had happen to you in the past that maybe wasn't quite on the up and up as it should have been? So we do hear those stories, unfortunately. Zach, we got a lot of war stories, man. We could spend 3 days talking about what other lenders have done to us personally or to our customers in the past. But this is a good topic, right? I mean, this is kind of the hey, heads up, things can get rocky quick if you're not aware of what you're looking at.
It's kind of funny as we were talking about yesterday about content. I could talk about my conversation with a borrower yesterday and do, three different podcasts on this topic and, background checks on the loan officer and all kinds of stuff because there's just a lot more to be a lot bigger story to be told behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
it's so confusing. I was chuckling to myself when you were talking about, the $9,000 Mercedes, because I had a friend growing up whose dad was a car dealer. He was a sales manager at a car dealer. And I first became aware of the term poor boy from him talking about what his dad, they would put in the newspaper back then, the lowest priced car on the lot. And the Sunday newspaper was full of these cars and it had a stock number and they would sell that car for that price. But it was the car that, and we're in Tennessee. It didn't have any air conditioning, didn't have power windows, didn't have anything power as a base model, cloth seats, plastic floor mats, or maybe even didn't have carpet. And so they called that the poor boy because it got people on the lot and then they would upsell.
Yeah.
And that's I think that in the mortgage business there's always a poor boy lender or a dozen poor boy lenders who are out there trying to promote that they have the best rate, and they do that in the pre-qualification. And so the borrower thinks, well, this is the best deal I found, and then they become a victim to that bait and switch down the road when the fees go up and so forth and so on, rates, etc.
Yeah. It is. It's the base model for sure. And all the add-ons and whatnot. And that's kind of interesting because you mentioned all that. It's kind of what the realtors are going through right now with NAR, right? I mean,
Yep.
we've seen some people who have thrown out hypothetical services where it's more the a la carte style. Boy, I wish we could do that with mortgages sometimes, because the problem is, and I get on this soapbox all the time, not that you do this every day, and that's the problem, and Americans aren't going to do this every day.
Right.
But again, just something else they don't teach you in high school or college. Like, there should be a course. When you look at a loan estimate, it shouldn't be the first time you've ever seen one in your life, and sometimes that is the case for first-time home buyers, and people just aren't taught those things. And so we're left to explain, which I'm fine with. I actually enjoy because if I explain it, I know you're going to understand it, or
Right.
I'm going to answer all your questions until you do. But when you get then somebody else on the phone, I don't trust that person. I trust very, very few. There's probably not even five on this earth that I really
Right.
trust all the way to the core, right? And so I have no idea what they're telling you. or how they're explaining it to you, or what kind of spin they're putting on it. And those things, are beyond our control, and we're never invited to those conversations, which bring us to why we have a bait and switch topic and conversation here. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to share this screen, and Zach and I are going to kind of go over this loan estimate. So, the loan estimate, what was it, Zach? 9 years ago, I think now, 2015,
Yep.
replaced the good faith estimate and the HUD. So now you have the loan estimate and you have the closing disclosure. That was a whole thing. Hard to believe that's been 9 years already, but
Yep.
here we are. So the loan estimate is 3 pages, and it breaks down the cost of your transaction and the terms. So I'm going to just scroll through quickly and we'll come back to the top. But you can see here information, yada, yada, loan amount, interest rate, principal and interest, uh, projected payments and calculations here, closing costs, cash to close, and then closing costs are broken down here on page 2. And then on page 3, it does some different comparisons, gives you the APR, some other considerations, and it asks you to confirm receipt and you sign. Now, one thing I always do actually hate about corporate America is so many times when you're asked to sign something, they give you a 50-page binder of documents and say, here, sign. And the 50 pages basically confuses the heck out of you. And most
Right.
people just sign at the bottom and have no idea what they're signing. So that's why you need to actually check this thing out. First red flag, though, Zach, this one would not be a red flag, but we see it a lot. You're quoted a rate. Maybe that rate's a little bit better than everybody else. Maybe that rate's one of the lower ones you've seen out there on the internet. Maybe it's lower than the person your realtor referred you to. But then I want to draw your attention to this box right here. Whenever it says no, right here, that is when you kind of want to say, what's going on? Is this legit? We send out quotes all the time that say no because it is truly not locked in. Zach and I aren't fudging numbers by 200 basis points. So when you see rate lock no, Zach, what's the first thing you start telling customers when they get a quote and it says that?
That it's just anybody can make up a number and put anything in there that they want to, because the loan isn't actually locked and they're not obligated to give you a cost estimate that has integrity. And I think that's the biggest piece of it. You can literally, if you were going to be a kind of a shyster loan officer, you can put any number in here that you want to. And I used to kind of have a joke with people. I talked about the magic quarter, and the magic quarter is that this bargain basement, no name call center mortgage company is quoting rates that are a quarter or 3/8 or 0.5% better than anybody else. And so it's called the magic quarter because it's magically not there and it's magically better than everybody else until lock day, and it magically reappears. And it's
And let me
probably,
quickly interrupt you.
yeah.
Oh, the market got so much worse than the last time we talked. I'm
Yeah,
so
I got a little
sorry.
bit of bad news for you. A little bit of bad news, and it's probably, with when you get into a real boom cycle, it's probably the magic half, because they're just the call center operations especially are just churning. And
Yeah.
you and I have been in markets where people get locked down in these call center refinance boom situations, and we're taking loans away from these call centers who can't close a loan in 90 days. These people just absolutely get exhausted and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I remember I had at least one person that had done 2 different appraisals in the last go round, and I believe it was with Wells or Bank of America or something, because their appraisal had expired. It took so long to do the refinance. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So locking the rate, critically important. Until then, people can basically say anything that they want to.
And you just got to be careful on the call center stuff, because people also, they have their own jobs to worry about. There are people you'll talk to that have simply quotas to meet, and they may need to tell you whatever it takes to get your credit card or get you locked in
Right.
order to meet a quota. And that's the truth of it. So sometimes you got to worry about that too. It's not just I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but it sounds great. But they literally may be saying it just to hit a quota because that's their job for that day. So, you kind of have to just be aware of some of those different things. All right. So you see a sales price here, subject property, your name and so forth, what kind of loan you're getting, fixed rate, loan amount, interest rate. Well, I wish that was the case today. Monthly principal and interest payment based on that. Does this have a prepayment penalty? This one actually does, but normally that's a no 99.9% of the time. I don't know why the CFPB has an example with a prepayment penalty. But yes, that can, I guess, happen in an odd world. I wish I hadn't even seen that because it's so obscure. You never see that anymore.
Right.
No balloon payment. And then here it calculates your payments. So this is your principal and interest, the mortgage insurance for the first 7 years, your escrow payment, 1050 a month, and then in years 8 through 30, the mortgage insurance goes away, so your payment goes down. Your taxes and insurance, yes, are included in your escrow payment. We keep going here, estimated closing costs, and that's what we're going to break down next in our red flag conversation here. So it says see page 2 for details. So here we go. Total cash to close. This is down payment plus closing costs. So we go here. Now, first section, section A. This is the lender. This is the lender right here. Obvious major red flag, again, is if the rate is less than what you're seeing online. And on top of that, if these costs are significantly low. Because usually if somebody's lowballing on a rate, the cost should be higher. So if you see that double combination, because sometimes people will quote a low rate because they want you to get fixated on the rate. But then after that, they do hit you with cost. So if you see both low rate and low cost, to me, Zach, huge red flag.
Yep, yep. Usually, and that's an easy translation. If the rate is 0.5% lower, then you're looking down in this section for discount points, and you'll see, people get fixated, especially in a refinance situation. It's like, oh, I got 5.25, and it's a 6% market. Can you beat that? Well, I can if you'll give me another $12,000 like this guy's asking you for. They're rolling it into the loan, so it kind of looks invisible, and they're promoting rate, and that's as a consumer, that's kind of a red flag too. Is if they're talking too much about rate and not about the cost of that rate,
right?
Flag.
Yeah, for sure. Because you start to have to wonder at what point, how long do I have to have this loan in order to break even on my savings?
Right.
So you got to have those conversations. So check this section out. Again, low rate and low fees, red flag, huge red flag there. Now, what we've also seen before is maybe this section has low fees, but another section has astronomical fees, meaning they come down here, and I've seen this before. We saw it 2 years ago with a branch we had down in section C. All of a sudden, these costs, instead of being 3,100, they're 10,000. And here's the reason they do something like that is at the end of the day, this section's going to drop down to 3198 because the lender can't control what the title company charges. Like, can't do it. So if the lender quotes 10 grand and then this ends up only being 3198, all that lender is doing is taking the $6,802 that are really discount points, and they're trying to inflate section C. And you say, well, why would you do that? How would that benefit me? Because in the initial conversation, the lender is going to say, oh, look, here's our cash to close. Oh, that other lender, they're not telling you the real title fees. I'm getting you a more accurate title estimate. Well, then at the end, the title estimate comes in less, but all of a sudden the rate costs more. But they say, well, you were okay with the cash to close. What's the problem? So they're selling you on the rate and on the cash to close, and they appear to be beating another lender by lying and tricking you and telling you that the title fees are higher than they really are.
Shell
So
game.
that was
They're
pretty
putting money in
savvy.
shells. Yeah.
Yeah, where else have you seen that though, Zach? Have you seen it other than Section C? Because that one's pretty savvy to simply sell the rate and the cash to close, but then bomb you later and say, "Oh, wait, no, that goes up here in this other bucket."
Yeah, in its simplest form, I think that's a good way to look at it. Although it takes a trained eye to see those things, because again, they're playing a shell game in where they have the technical advantage, meaning they're moving money around on a spreadsheet, and the consumer may not see that unless they're being really savvy. But then they don't have enough wherewithal to be able to argue against it, because it's a, I mean, they've thought this out, and that's a person who's taken advantage.
Here's a quick little secret, by the way. These title fees, lenders can't change them. It's not like it varies lender to lender. Whoever the closing attorney is, that fee is going to be the exact same whether you close with ABC mortgage or XYZ mortgage,
Right.
because the closing attorney will be the same no matter which closing or which lender you go to. So don't let anyone tell you that they can save you money on title fees. Like, we literally just run estimates until we have what's called the title invoice back, or the prelim CD back with the title's actual fees on there. We're doing
Right.
a best in good faith estimate, and people try to leverage that quite a bit. All right, last thing, other thing people try to leverage, Zach, I'm going to let you run with this one. F&G, prepaids and escrows. This one always
Yeah.
comes up.
This is an easy thing to fudge on, and I see it a lot in refinances, but also in people shopping purchases, is that the lender will not collect the appropriate amount needed to pay the upfront insurance for a year at closing, or collect enough to put in the escrow accounts. And that's especially true because of a technical way that escrows are calculated for new construction. New construction requires more taxes be collected at full value of the house. And so this is a really easy way for a dishonest loan officer to look thousands of dollars better in closing costs than somebody who's trying to put forth an accurate picture, just by under collection of escrows. And then at the end of the game, and maybe somebody makes a mistake every once in a while, but if you've been around the block and have ever closed a new construction loan, you know what you need to collect. And often at the end of the game, the excuse is, "Oh, well, wait a minute. The title company came up with a different collection calculation than what I did." And so that's not on me. I mean, that's you take that up with title. So they're really passing the buck when they should have done a better job up front.
Here's the thing, too. It's all public record. All you have to do is Google Williamson County property tax rate,
Right.
and it tells you how to calculate it. That's it. But people don't know that. And so when you rely on the lender, and then if they don't do it, do a shoddy job or whatever the case is, and then they make their number look low, then yes, correct. Or they'll do it like you were saying. They kind of do it just based off of land, raw land, which is obviously cheaper than the final price. Taxes are not $12 a month on a $500,000 house, no matter what, just not. That happens. And then the other one is prepaid interest right here. I've seen it before where you get a contract, and it'll be closing on the 4th day of the month, and they'll still collect for 1 day of prepaid interest. And that makes it look like a much smaller cost than it actually is. Prepaid interest is what it is, but it allows their overall fees to maybe look lower than what you're quoting, because maybe you're quoting or being told like, "Hey, we're closing on the 4th, and that's why you have 26, 27 days of prepaid interest versus just 1 or 2." So you can hide those numbers. Yeah, you can hide those numbers and trick people and make the overall cost look a lot less, which again, that's why we raise these red flags to you, just little things that you can kind of be on the lookout for to hopefully help you understand. Any final thought there, Zach?
I just want to kind of add all those things together. When you're talking about, $2,000 in escrow collections, and you're talking about, discount points of $3,000, and they're leaving fees out or shuffling them around. You're talking about a significant amount. If somebody is employing all of those strategies, a significant amount on top of the deception about the interest rate, the actual rate, which is relatively easy to ferret out. So there's lots of opportunity even in this environment. The reason all of this changed 10 years ago was to try to protect the consumer from bad practice in the mortgage industry. And
Yeah.
it's human nature where there's money moving around and uneducated consumers that somebody's going to find a way to deceive. And so even with all of those protections in place, we still see
Every
some
day.
practices being engaged in the industry that are just absolutely at minimum deceptive and all the way up to criminal, because they're just absolutely deceiving the consumer.
You honestly have to be careful because a lot of times people in a commission only world need a paycheck, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to have you as the sacrificial lamb so
Yeah.
that they can, reap the benefit of the paycheck and the commission. So anyway, that'll do it for us. 26 of these in the books. The next two are going to be fun though. We've got some good stuff over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you follow the channel, like, subscribe, download, hit the bell, share, comment, DM. Would love to know if you've had any of these experiences as well. You follow him, Zach Jones Loans, and then you follow me. This Chad is real. All the socials over here, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Also, quick shout out. We had someone in the mortgage industry, former colleague, pass away just yesterday, actually, Pat Allen. She was such a big name and a terrific person in the mortgage industry in Huntsville, Alabama. So, gonna miss Pat. Fantastic lady, but glad she's no longer in pain because she had it kind of rough over the last couple of weeks. So, prayers to her and her family, and gonna miss you, Pat. So, for Zach, I'm Chad. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next week.